Here are 5,500 bees. And today, everything starts going wrong! This all happened when I opened my back door just to hang some laundry. I heard this really strange buzzing sound, like someone using a lawnmower made of wings. I looked up, and there it was, a dark cloud of bees spinning right under my roof. Okay, what is happening right now? I stepped closer. Huge mistake. Instantly, hundreds of bees turned toward me, like I just interrupted their morning meeting. I ran inside, slammed the door, and tried to breathe. My friends stared at me like I'd seen a ghost. Dude, what happened? Bees? A lot of bees? There are like 5,000 out there. Actually, 5,500! But trust me, I wasn't in the mood to count. I grabbed my phone, slowly opened the door, and recorded them from a distance. And yep, exactly what I was afraid of. They were trying to build a hive right under my roof. Right above the path I walk every day. Perfect. Amazing. I always wanted 5,500 new roommates. I called a friend who keeps bees. He said, "Relax. Just find the queen." I looked outside again. It was a swirling tornado of bees. Find the queen? They all look the same. But I tried anyway. I put on gloves, grabbed a plastic container, and walked out. Immediately, bees started orbiting me like a living camera rig. Hey, chill! I'm just looking! I slowly moved the container toward the thickest cluster of bees. The moment I touched it, one bee flew straight into my wrist. Oh my god. I dropped the container. Bees scattered everywhere. I panicked and sprinted back inside. I thought it was over. But then I looked through the window, and things got worse. The cluster of bees was getting bigger. Twice as big as before. And they weren't just building a home, they were trying to split the colony. Which means, if I don't stop this now, I won't just have 5,500 bees on my roof. I'll have thousands more arriving soon. And that's when I realized, this isn't stopping. This is only the beginning. I waited until sunset, hoping the bees would calm down. Spoiler, they didn't. When the temperature dropped, the entire cluster tightened into one giant ball under my roof. It looked like a fuzzy basketball that could sting me 5,500 times. My beekeeper friend texted me. They're cold. This is your chance. Try moving them now. Great. So I grabbed my gloves, a flashlight, and the same plastic container I dropped earlier. Round 2, I stepped outside, slowly. Every step felt like I was sneaking up on a bomb. The bees were silent. Too silent. I held up the flashlight and realized the ball of bees was bigger than before. Oh, no, that wasn't here 15 minutes ago. They were forming a second cluster, another group breaking away. If they split again, I'm officially running an Airbnb for bees. I had to act fast. I pressed the container up against the first cluster. Most of the bees didn't move. A few crawled inside. Okay, good. Progress. But then, my flashlight slipped out of my hand, hit the wall, and turned the beam straight into the cluster. It was like hitting a switch. The whole ball of bees started vibrating. No, nope, absolutely not. Don't do that! And then they lifted off. 5.50 bees just rose into the air like a living smoke cloud. I froze. My brain stopped working. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't run. Bees were everywhere in my hair, on my jacket, landing on my gloves like it was an airport runway. My friend yelled from inside the house, "Did you drop the flashlight?" "Yes, I dropped the flashlight." I crouched down, trying not to move. Some bees flew directly at the light. Others flew at me, and the rest had absolutely no idea what they were doing. For a moment, it was a total panic spiral. For them, and for me. But then something weird happened. The bees started drifting toward the container I was holding. Slowly, one by one, they weren't following me. They were following something inside the box. I tilted it slightly and saw it. A small cluster of bees had gathered around one bigger bee. Could it be? Is that the queen? But before I could check, the second cluster of bees began buzzing louder and louder. They were confused, cold, and queenless. If I didn't move them before the temperature dropped further, they would not survive the night. And just like that, I had a new problem. 2 groups of bees. 1 possible queen. And about 20 minutes before the temperature hit lethal levels, I looked at the container. I looked at the second cluster. And I said the dumbest sentence of my life. So I had 20 minutes. 1 shaking flashlight. Great plan, right? And held the container close to them. They just sat there, shivering in a fuzzy little lump. Then one bee lifted its head. Then another. And then the whole cluster started crawling toward the container. No way. No way this is actually working. I slowly backed up toward the hive box I set in the yard, leading them like some kind of extremely nervous bee shepherd. A few bees landed on my gloves. A few landed on my face shield. 1 bee landed directly on my nose like it paid rent there, but I kept walking. When I reached the hive box, I gently set the container next to the entrance and opened the lid. The bees hesitated for a second. Then the first one crawled inside. Then 10. Then 100. And suddenly the entire swarm looked like a river flowing directly into the hive. I just stood there in disbelief. Okay, that is actually insane. But it wasn't over yet. Inside the hive, the bees were gathering around the cluster in my container. If the queen was truly in there, they'd start fanning, spreading her scent through the hive. So I watched and waited. 1 minute, nothing. 2 minutes, still nothing. 3 minutes! And then I saw it. A single bee climbed to the top of the entrance, lifted its wings, and started fanning like a tiny air conditioner. Then another joined. Then another. Suddenly the whole hive came alive. They found their queen, or at least, someone they thought was their queen. I felt the stress melt off me. Hours of panic, stings, bad decisions, dropped flashlights, and it finally worked. I closed the hive gently and stepped back. We did it. I can't believe we actually did it! I turned around to go inside. And then I heard it. Buzzing. Loud buzzing. Behind me. I spun around and saw, hanging from the roof, exactly where the swarm originally formed, another cluster of bees. Maybe 50 of them left behind. Cold. No queen. No idea where to go. I looked at them. They looked at me. We all sighed together. All right. Fine. Get in! I lifted the small clump with my glove, carried them to the hive entrance, and watched them crawl inside one by one. Finally, everything fell quiet. Just the gentle hum of a hive settling into its new home. I turned off my flashlight, stood in the dark for a moment, and said to myself, I started the day with 5,500 bees. Now I have 5,550. Great. But honestly, watching them march into the hive, following a queen I found completely by accident, it was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. And who knows, maybe tomorrow they'll actually let me check if the queen is real. But that's a problem for future me.